My message would be to continue to learn and grow. You can be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rise Up For You podcast. Please help me welcome my guest, Shane Jasmine Young. Hi, Shane. How are you today?
Hi, Nada. I'm good. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. So we always love to start the show off by letting the audience get to know our guest. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, I am a wife and a mother of 5. I've got 5 daughters, and they range in age from teenagers to almost 25-year-old twins that will be graduating from law school actually this December and joining our law firm, which, by the way, I'm also an attorney and owner of business. My law firm's called Young Law Group, and we focus primarily on estate planning, business, and we have a personal injury division as well.
Awesome. So I want to know a little bit about your journey. I think it's important that anytime we do a podcast with guests that they share a little bit about how they got to where they are today, especially as a business owner, not, being a lawyer, having kids, twins in particular. So take us back to when you were in high school. Who was Shane in high school?
Okay. So in high school, I was very outgoing. I played sports. I was very driven, motivated to succeed. I was very competitive in everything that I did. I graduated as a valedictorian from my high school. In high school, I played basketball. I ran track. I didn't play sports in college because I wanted to focus on my academics. And I was able to graduate in 3 years, which was actually perfect timing because at the time that I graduated, I was pregnant with my twins. So my husband and I are high school sweethearts. We've been together since we were 16 and 17 and, have been together ever since. So it's over 30 years now. We were able to thankfully make everything work as far as us coming back home. We were both living in California, going to school. He was also modeling. When I graduated in 2000 and I was 5 months pregnant after graduating from college, we came back to Las Vegas where both of our families are. And I took a year off from school. So that extra year was nice because I had graduated early. And on their first birthday, I started law school here at the William S. Boyd School of Law at UNLV. And I was able to thankfully do well. I got a job at the, big law firm. I stayed in private practice and in the corporate world for the first almost 15 years of a little less than that, about 12 or 13 years of my professional legal career. And then in 2017 is when we started Young Law Group. So now those twins that I had all those years ago are now finishing up at the same law school that I went to. So it's very surreal to be able to look back, and it seems like just, everything happens so quickly now, 25 years just came and went, but it's an exciting time.
I love that. I'm curious because I'm always interested in hearing how somebody kind of became who they are. Mm-hmm. Obviously, since you were in high school, you were very driven, you were motivated, right? You were an athlete where you were going to college, you went to college, you did all the things. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Because so many individuals, I would say, struggle to be motivated. They struggle to know where their path is going. Mm-hmm. It was childhood that you kind of had that. What attributed to that?
Yeah. So growing up, my parents are from Guyana, South America. So I'm the first generation that was actually born in the States. And my parents didn't come from a lot. Their families really, struggled to be able to make that transition. They came from really large families. And my dad, though, had an entrepreneurial spirit. And he went to college. He went to NYU, Stern School of Business. So he was very business focused. And when we were in Las Vegas, he decided to start his own business, his own airline. And he got everything set up as far as, the financing. He hired employees. He had purchased airplanes. He hired attorneys to help him make sure that everything was sound and the business was on the right foundation. And unfortunately, some of these advisors, people that he trusted, took advantage of him and ended up taking control of his business. And this happened when I was in middle school. They took control of the business away. They ran it into bankruptcy and we lost lost everything. So we were financially devastated, emotionally devastated. Everything really crumbled at that time. And my dad, had to try to pick up the pieces. He hired an attorney. He filed a lawsuit against those bad actors. And that started when I was in middle school. That lawsuit started while I was in middle school, and it continued all the way through college for me. So all of those years really, very formative, impressionable years where I was seeing my dad and my family go through this experience. And my dad shared a lot about those challenges and his journey with me. And so that was really what got me thinking, like my wheels started turning really early on, and having that perspective based on this real life experience that my family was living. It was our reality, really made me make the decisions that I made, at each stage moving forward in my life, so that I could be in the best position to not only help myself and help my own family, but to be able to help others and to work with other people, provide resources, be an asset to our community so that people wouldn't be taken advantage of, and there would be these other opportunities and options to have, the right relationships, the right guidance, and, work with people that are trustworthy and deserving of all of that.
Yeah, I love that. So based off of what you just said, what I hear you saying is that kind of motivated you to go into the law area, the area of law.
Yeah. And because I was the oldest of three, even though I was young, during those years, middle school, high school, my dad shared a lot with me. And as he was going through his lawsuit and litigation process with respect to his business, I would read pleadings. I'd be reading the court documents and I'd be editing things, at this young age. And I think back now, and I'm like, I was working with these attorneys who were well established in their careers. And I was this, young person coming into my adulthood, asking all these questions and providing feedback and, making edits to, their documents and suggestions. And it really did set me up for success as I continued my journey educationally. And, it allowed me to really think about things from a completely different standpoint. I had a whole different vantage point because I already experienced so much, in real life. And so when I was going through college and then just, when I did decide to go to law school and I went to law school, I already had this real life experience that I was able to see, okay, so now I'm learning really about how to utilize the law and utilize these different strategies and opportunities and options and apply them in real life, and in business moving forward. So when I was in college, I studied business. My major was business administration. And it came to a point where I needed to decide what I was going to do as far as that next step. Was I going to go and get my MBA? It was kind of those two options. I was like, I either want to go get my MBA and focus on business, or I'll go to law school and, pursue that career path. And my dad really encouraged me, he's like, you should go to law school. This is where you'll be able to, you can do everything that you want in business, but, the law degree and, being able to be a lawyer will teach you a different skill set, and you'll have, that backing so that what happened to me won't happen to you. And so, that was one of the reasons why I decided to pursue a career in the law. And also, I've just always wanted to be in a position to help people and to be able to show them things that they wouldn't otherwise know, or they wouldn't otherwise have access to. And so I decided to go to law school. I did start in the corporate setting. I went to the big law firm after I graduated with my law degree. And I really liked it. I liked the camaraderie, the colleagues that I had. I was learning so much from these really, really sharp attorneys that had been practicing for decades. And, I learned different things, bits and pieces. I really liked this, and I learned how to be a strong advocate, for my clients, based on this partner's style. I learned how to be a great writer and a great communicator, from different people. So I was able to really learn so much and soak up so much information, so much knowledge that I was able to continue on, now I've been in it 20 plus years. So, just learning these different things from the law firm setting. And then also going in-house, I worked as the general counsel for a trust company before I started my own firm. So that was a completely different experience where I basically had, I went from a big law firm where I had a lot of clients to one client where I was the attorney that oversaw everything related to the business business. So it was such a great experience to learn the different components of how a business works, from sales to marketing to HR to being able to be part of the executive team and work with the owners of the business and really see what their vision was and see, the concerns that they had and how they wanted to be able to operate their business, what their exit strategy was. That was all part of what I was involved in, because when they hired me, their goal was for us to get everything in order for them to really maximize their opportunity to sell the business. And so that's what we did. And they were able to sell it for, well, actually 4 times what the initial offer was. And so to be part of that was a really incredible experience that I was able to take from, all those different experiences. And, with my own business, I've been able to implement and execute at a really high level without having a lot of the pitfalls, a new entrepreneur or a new business owner might experience. Although, of course, I've had challenges like everyone,
we all do. I want to hear a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey. So part of our audience is corporate professionals, organizations we work with, and then part of the audience is entrepreneurs, right? People that either are just starting their business or they've been in business. Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to, in particular, become an entrepreneur? And I'm just curious, what are some of the biggest challenges you see as a business owner who's also a mom, who's also very active in the community? That's how you and I met in Las Vegas, obviously. I'm just curious about that whole dynamic, because nobody really knows what it's like to own your own business, right? Right. Unless you're in it. So why did you decide to take that route? And then just talk about some of the not so pretty things about business.
Okay. So what inspired me to start my own business was really my husband. He's the one that really was the catalyst. And for years, he had said, even from early on, right after I graduated from law school, he's like, okay, so when are we going to open up our own firm? When are we going to do this? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to learn how to be an attorney first. So, that's scary. And one of the things that held me back, quite honestly, just being candid with you, was what I saw happen to my dad. It was scary. It was difficult, growing up in that situation where it was so unstable, as far as finances. And I didn't want that for my kids, and at that point, we already had 2 children. We had them young. I was 21 when I had our first daughters, and I didn't want them to grow up struggling. I didn't want them to have that same, that type of experience. And was so laser focused on, I've got to do well in school. I've got to, kind of follow this particular path. I'm going to get a really good job. I'm going to make good money so that, our bills are paid and we don't have to worry about, things, the lights getting cut off, things that other, childhood experiences. I just didn't want that for them. So I stayed in the corporate setting for probably longer than I know, definitely longer than my husband would have liked. But I also understand for myself, I kind of needed to go through that process and then get to that point to be able to take that next step. And how it happened when I was working in-house as the general counsel for my last position, I knew from the beginning that the goal was to sell the business. So I knew that it wasn't going to be a long-term, okay, you're going to retire at this company. It was really, let's get everything in order. And in the next few years, we want to be able to sell. And most likely I wouldn't have a job, at that point, because whoever was going to buy the business was going to come in and put their own team in place. So I knew that that was happening. And my next step, that we talked about as a family was we're going to start our own firm. So we had already started talking about it. But when the company sold, it happened probably 6 or 7 months before we thought that, I was going to have to make that transition. So it was very quick, where it was like, oh, okay, well, now I need to figure out that next step. And I didn't have everything really secure as far as opening up my firm at that point. So I thought about it, okay, well, now I don't have a job. I need to make a decision. Should I go and apply for another position to be able to, keep that income, that stability so that I can get everything really in order to step out on my own. And we just decided, together as a team, a husband and wife, that, we were just going to go for it, which was really scary for me, for me, especially, he's the dreamer. He's the one that has the vision and, he sees things in color, and I tend to be more black and white. And if I don't have every detail planned out, it can be stressful for me. It can be overwhelming. And so, there was something, guiding me. There was, I followed just the faith that we had, the belief in the success that we would have. And we went from having 0 clients when I started my firm in 2017. One of my first clients was actually my former company that was now acquired by another company. They hired me as their outside counsel. So that was such a blessing to be able to really transition and have that opportunity to continue to have some, stability there as far as, having that main client. And we just built it together, from that point. And, the other question that you asked was, what are some of the challenges that we faced? Well, one challenge is, as you can imagine, this was the first time that my husband and I worked together, in a work environment, in a professional setting. We always had kind of done our things separately as far as work. And we've been a good team as far as husband and wife and, learning and really growing up together and having our family. That's one dynamic, but then having to work together and for a business that we own where we may not always see eye to eye or see, or even understand each other's perspective. So that was a challenge as far as learning how to communicate in the business world together as business partners, in addition to our home life. And it's made us so much stronger because I've been able to appreciate the work that he does. And the major benefit is knowing that, obviously we're on the same team and we're working towards the same goal. And I know that I can trust him, with anything. And I know that he has my best interests at heart. And if he's telling me something, it's for my benefit, even though it might not be something that I want to hear. It might be difficult, it might be constructive criticism. It might be like, okay, well, this wasn't the direction that we should go. We need to switch gears and we need to go this path. So just having that belief in each other and the trust in each other to know like we're going to work through it. And when we do kind of bump heads, there's a way to go about resolving that conflict respectfully and knowing that we're working towards the same goal is always the perspective that we have. So it might be, we've had a long day and, we might be a little short with one another or might not have, the patience to have a particular conversation. And we've learned how to really navigate those days, those harder days in a way where we're able to kind of get past those humps, those bumps in the road and continue on the path to success. So that would be definitely a major challenge. Yeah. And learning opportunity to be better.
One of the things I heard you say, which I think is really important, is going back to you working in the corporate space first, because I'm a firm believer as an entrepreneur now, as a business owner, that I do firmly believe that stepping into the corporate space first and learning from people, seeing, behind the scenes, the ropes before you open your own business can really help benefit and is a game changer to when you do open the business, right? Learning from people's mistakes, understanding what they're doing, what you can optimize. And a lot of people don't recognize that when you do leave and open your own business, sometimes the person you work for becomes your client, which is the exact thing that happened to you. I'm curious for you, as you know, we're Rise Up For You. Everything we talk about is, being that top 1%. Beyond the technical skill, right? So you went to law school, you got the degree, you educated yourself, but how much of your success would you say is truly attributed to the more softer skills, which are actually really hard? So the self-confidence, emotional intelligence, being able to build relationships with people, understanding how to lead not only yourself, but team, people in the community. How much of your success would you say is attributed to that?
Oh my gosh, it's such a huge part. I think that it's one of the most overlooked areas when it comes to business. People think that, okay, well, if I've got this, skill set, as far as, whatever that is, whether it's a service or a product that you provide, sometimes it's so much is focused on that, on those like the hard skills or the kind of the tangible things, but there's so much value in the intangibles, the things that you mentioned as far as, how you lead, how you communicate with people, how you connect with your clients, with the community. And I can tell you, in my area, my industry, you can be the top 1% as far as, attorney skill wise. But if people don't have a connection to you, if they don't feel comfortable talking to you, if they don't trust you, that you're not going to be successful in business. And so it's a very difficult line for a lot of people to be able to walk, because sometimes people have those hard skills, but they don't have the soft soft skills. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to listen. They don't know how to truly really hear what the needs are, the people that they're looking to serve. And so that's something that I think doesn't always come naturally. And even for someone like me, who I think I do have some of that just natural ability to connect with people, it's still a constant thing that I'm working on to make sure that I sharpen those skills and that I'm very much aware of how I'm showing up, how I talk to people, how people are receiving me. It's so important because, as you mentioned, one of the other things that you had touched on is we do a lot in the community. And, I love this community. I love serving people. I love going out and I love speaking and talking to people and being a resource and telling them things that they wouldn't otherwise know. And just seeing, their eyes light up like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that I had the option to, really protect my family and protect my assets in this way. And so just being able to share really high level concepts and strategies to the everyday, person and the everyday, even of course, sophisticated business people that don't really have a legal background. It's important to be able to share that information, share that knowledge so that they're empowered to make the best decisions, for themselves. So yes, it's very important. I think it's an area or even a skill set that is often overlooked or not, the time and the effort is not put into it at the same level. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Shane, this has been a great conversation. I want to jump into the power section of the interview and honor your time because I know we ran a little bit late today. So I always like to ask, if you were to leave the world with one final message, we call it the golden nugget. What would your golden nugget be to people?
Oh my gosh, the golden nugget. My message would be to continue to learn and grow. Because as far as, we've come, as entrepreneurs, there's always the next level that you can reach, that you can strive for, that you can be better. So just don't be complacent, continue to read, continue to learn, continue to be coached, continue to, seek resources to just become, continue to strive to be the best that you can be, the best version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah. And in your law firm in particular with your clients, what is the biggest challenge that you often see?
What are one of the biggest challenges? Is that was the question?
Yes, that you often see with your clients.
What I often see with my clients is many times they've been just misinformed when it comes to, my focus is estate planning, as we mentioned. And so in the world of, in this technology, innovative AI, focused world that we live in, one of the common mistakes that we're seeing people make is, or having to overcome with clients that are coming in is like, well, can I just do this online? I looked it up and, I researched this and I should be able to do this and that. And
you cheat it. Yeah.
yes. And so, just bringing them back to like, this is an area where it's a minefield. And yes, you can get access to information, which is good. It's always good to research and, try to learn things. But when it comes to certain things, you really need that guidance of a trusted professional to be able to really answer all the questions that you might have as things change, as your life changes, as the laws change, as your assets change. So the relationship ongoing is one of those priceless things. Having that resource and that support is so important. And thankfully, the clients that do choose to work with us understand the value in that and being able to pick up the phone and talk to me, email us and ask the questions and really get that guidance moving forward. So yeah, that's a challenge that we see often now.
I love that. I have one more question for you, but before I ask, tell the audience about where they can find you. I know you have like a free class about estate planning and you give a free informative call. So let the audience know where they can find you and check you out.
Yeah, great. So as far as social media, I have my personal account and our business account. So on the personal side, Instagram, for example, is Shane Jasmine Young Law Group is our Instagram handle. I'm also on LinkedIn, Shane Jasmine Young, ESQ. And you can always call the office. The phone number is 702-473-5600, 702-473-5600. And our website is a really great resource, which also houses the on-demand video that you mentioned. So our website, younglawlive.com, younglawlive.com. You can go there, get access to all of the information that you may be interested in. There's an on-demand button, or you can go to younglawlive.com/on-demand. And that's where a video, you'll get access to a video. It's essentially estate planning 101. Really, really great information there.
Fantastic. I encourage everyone to do it. One of the things that I like about your approach to business is it's very accessible and user-friendly, which you don't always see with law firms, right? right? And so
Yes.
we'll make sure we put all of that in the show notes for you. And final question, as you know, we're the company Rise Up For You. What comes to mind when you hear that phrase?
For me, it really is aligned with that golden nugget, that we talked about, where you have the constant opportunity to rise. Even when you reach a certain level of success, there's always room to continue to rise. And it also, for me, means, rising together, coming together as a community, as professionals to be able to get information, education, resources, and share those resources, because we're really stronger together. And that allows all of us to continue to rise and, achieve those great heights that we're looking to achieve.
I love that. Shane, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone for joining the Rise Up For You podcast today. Every single week, we're bringing you episodes with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, executives from around the world to do one thing, and that's help you and your team be your absolute best, not only professionally, but also personally. I will see you next time. And Shane, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel and check us out on social media. We are everywhere, from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook, at our simple handle at Rise Up For You. On every single platform, it's exactly the same. And we're providing new content on every single platform, so there's something different everywhere. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast, and connect with us on social media. I'll see you next time.